Good morning. The Monday, April 20th Senate Finance Committee will come to order. And we're going to start with Senator Xiong's bill. And while he's coming up, I will make a couple of just logistical notes and so on. First of all, for members in your packets, we have bill documents for 3 bills today. We don't know if we may only get to the state and local government bill this morning. The other 2 are paper clipped together. To keep them separate from that, we're going to be in this room until 10:30, and then we're going to recess. When we return after the floor session, we're going to be in room G15 of the Capitol. So we will not be in this room this afternoon. Staff, we're going to move all of our papers over to G15, and when we recess today, if there are any papers you no longer leave them on the upper shelf here, and the rest will be packaged up and brought in your folder to G15. And then on the process of the budgets this week, this is a supplemental budget year, as we know, and Senate is focusing on a limited list of priority areas, reflect urgent needs that we've been seeing from Minnesotans, and especially response to federal impacts and the passage of H.R. 1 and Operation Metro Surge. And we also have things on fraud prevention, safety and security, and affordability issues. We're going to be taking many of the bills that are passed by the budget committees, creating packages based on those priorities that would be passed to the floor. This week, we're going to work on the Veterans Omnibus, the Housing Omnibus, Health and Human Service Omnibus, Safety and Security Package, and Supplemental Finance Bill. And we're strictly not allowing policy and budget bills and bills that come into finance with policy and finance. We're taking out the money-related items and putting those into supplemental bill, and then sending the policy as separate bills to the floor. And I ask members to focus on budget items, not policy, only amendments or discussions. Those are fully appropriate to be considered on the floor. This process is trying to respond to urgent needs, and it's a different approach than previous years. So proposed actions for each bill are listed in the agenda and have been posted online. And with that, before Senator Xiong starts on state and local omnibus bill, maybe Lexi, do you want to explain the procedures we would do for this bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding the process you'd like to follow today will be that Senator Xiong will do a bill presentation of Senate File 4059, including a walkthrough of the spreadsheet, and then that bill will be laid over, and House File 2433, which is the vehicle for the supplemental bill, will be taken up. And the A17 amendment will be offered, which will put in the state government budget provisions into the supplemental budget bill. And after that amendment is considered, other amendments will be considered by the committee, as will be comments and questions. And when that is concluded, House File 2433 will be laid over.
And with that as background, Senator Xiong, can you welcome to the committee, and look forward to hearing your presentation on Senate File 4059.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, members. I have before you the state government appropriations bill. Maybe if I offer, or if someone can offer the A17, I could give a walkthrough article by article, if that makes sense, or.
Perhaps you make the presentation, and
Yeah,
we might
certainly.
lay over the bill then, and you stay there, and
Yeah,
then we'll
certainly.
go through section by section at that point. Is that
Sure,
fair?
certainly. Well, either way, so the state government appropriations bill, there's a Article 13. It's about smart and targeted investments and cleaning up where we need to. It puts funding into the Attorney General's Medicaid fraud control unit, so we can better protect taxpayer dollars and make sure our healthcare system is being used the way it should be. It also supports public television stations across the state. These are trusted sources of education, local news, and emergency information, especially in greater Minnesota. Currently, they are using their reserves as they face federal funding cuts. There's also funding to improve our payroll reporting system, which helps with transparency and making sure our systems actually work efficiently. Also importantly, we cancel funding that hasn't been used yet for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, just making sure that we're being responsible and aligning dollars with reality. There's also a piece in here modernizing how we regulate barbering in Minnesota. It's been a bill that's been brought to the legislature for a couple of years now. A lot of this is cleaning up outdated language and making the licensing process clearer and more accessible. It also clarifies what falls under barbering, updates exam processes, and makes sure standards are consistent. At the end of the day, this is about reducing unnecessary barriers while still keeping strong health and safety protections in place. Then there's a board of cosmetologists article that does something that's very similar, but for cosmetology. It updates licensing structures, timelines, and definitions so the system is easier to navigate. It also improves access, whether it's for military members, people coming from out of state, or folks trying to move between related professions. There's also a focus on accountability, making sure schools are financially stable and that salons and programs are meeting safety standards, and it allows some flexibility in education, limited online learning for theory-based coursework. But overall, these articles are about modernization. This amendment is about balance and make smart targeted investments. And with that, I could hand it over to staff to go over the spreadsheet.
Thank you. I will first say if there are any of the, I'm sorry, if we have any commissioners in the office in the audience who wish to speak to it. Otherwise, what I think we will do now then is simply lay over Senate File 4059 and then take up Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this the moment to express some, any concerns that we have about the A-17, or what is your pleasure, Mr. Chair?
What we were going to do now, Senator Champion, was to take up the omnibus bill and House File 2433, and then the A-17, which he's talked about. We will then go through that section by section, have that, and that may be the best time to express concerns. If you'd rather now, that's fine. But
Mr. Chair, I will follow your lead. You are our fearless leader. I just want to talk about Article 16 of the on the A-17.
okay, then we will lay over Senate File 4059 and take up House File 2433, which will be, is that, okay. It's a bill that we're using as a vehicle bill from it. It's a House file, but so we do not have that in front of us. So in effect, what we'll be doing is now taking up what we would like to see as an amendment to House File 2433, which is the A-17 amendment. And now at this time, perhaps, we can have Senate Counsel and Research, Fiscal Analysis, go through the bill section by section, go through the spreadsheet, and Senator Champion, then after that, we'll do questions and concerns.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Senate File 4059 will end up being the policy bill that moves to the floor. And we will be amending in the financial pieces into 2433, as I understand it, and amending 2433, which we do not have in front of us.
Right, and Senator Pratt, this would be actually, I think we will probably do this as a delete everything, though there will be other things added to it. But there are other provisions of Senator Xiong's bill that are going to be put into, I think, the safety and security bill is coming up in a few days and so on. So we're going to lay the bill over and take things out of it for this bill and at least one other bill.
Mr. Chair, I'm just suggesting, so let's take this in pieces. 4059 will end up being the policy bill that goes to the floor. Is that correct?
I'm not sure if there's any policy in the bill, so I'm not sure there will be anything left in the bill. Ms. Stengel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The State Government Committee has a separate policy bill that has already been sent to general orders, so Senate File 4059 will not be leaving the committee. It's just being laid over and nothing further will happen with it.
And so, Senator Pratt, so some of this bill is going into the supplemental finance bill, some is going into the safety and security package, because they have a lot of jurisdiction over, well, the courts and the legislature and everything's budgets for that.
So, Mr. Chair, you're going to ask us to approve an A17 amendment for a bill that we don't have in our packets today.
Senator Pratt, we do have that bill. I was going to have this be a delete everything amendment, so, but we can hand out the bill if you want. It was an education finance provision from the House from last year. But we will, if you'd like to hand it out, we can hand it out, but this is going to be started as and I see it's not drafted that way, but we would start this as a delete everything amendment to that bill, and then we will be adding other things to it. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just, I think as a practice, I believe that we should have whatever bills are being amended in front of us so that we can see where this fits. If we are inserting after page 106, then we should be able to know that there's nothing after page 106 or what, any other impacts to it. And I think it's just the best practice.
Right, and Senator Pratt, we will have it distributed. The bill, it's a thick bill, but basically this would be, I'm going to ask that Senate Council make this drafted so it's a delete everything. No? Don't want to do that, okay. Explain the Senate Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The process, because the plan is to adopt a series of amendments to add pieces to this supplemental bill. If we do a series of delete everything amendments, it will delete everything that has been added previously to it. So you'll see a series of amendments that all start page 106 after line 21, which is the end of the bill. So you'll see a series of new articles that all start with Article 13. So it's adding a whole series of articles to the end of this bill. At the end of the series of additions, you will see a committee engrossment that renumbers all of the articles. When the E12 committee comes before the committee, they will have a delete everything that deletes the education provisions in the bill and puts in new education provisions, effectively only deleting the provisions in the bill once. So when the final vote on this bill is taken, the committee will have before it a committee engrossment so you can see everything that has been done in a properly sequenced bill.
So for Senator Pratt and my and others' sake, in effect, what we're doing is right now we will be adding amendments to this, and when the Education Committee comes, then we'll be deleting all of 106 pages of the bill. So it will be deleted, everything will be deleted in the current bill will be deleted, but when the education bill comes up, okay. That's a little more confusing, but it works. I hope that's understandable to everyone, that we will not be deleting it now, but the plan is to delete everything. Effectively, this would be the first thing we're putting into the bill. With that, pardon? Okay. Senator Friends moves to offer the A17 amendment to House File 2433 to take the provisions from state and local government.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So do we have House File 2433 in front of us, or do we have Senate File 4059 in front of us?
I have not. Senator Friends moves to put House File 24. We don't need to move to put it in front of us. I will just, that's what I
understood that Senator Xiong was coming up to talk about Senate File 4059.
He's talking about A17, which is what we would be putting onto this. So House File 2433 is in front of us. Senator Friends moves A17 amendment to that to put the bill, to take the language that Senator Xiong is going to go through with us, and then we will offer that, then we will vote on that amendment. So with that, Ms. James or Mr. Erickson or Senator Xiong, who wants to go first?
Mr. Chair and members, I think the bill should be limited at this point to fiscally related provisions, so I'll go ahead and start. I'll start by referring you to the spreadsheet for the SCH 2433A17 amendment. Just to orient you to what you're looking at here, we're in the even year, so this spreadsheet is only showing increments related to an enacted budget. So the numbers you see match the incremental increase in appropriations in the bill. On the left side, you'll see a series of agencies that receive appropriations in the bill. In the first block of columns are the current fiscal year 26-27 biennium, and then the second block of columns is the fiscal 28, fiscal 29 tails biennium. So first, you'll see on line 12, there is $1.2 million to expand the Medicaid Fraud Division staffing at the Attorney General's office. There are a number of appropriations to the Department of Administration on lines 24 to 26. The first is $800,000 from an existing appropriation for allocating for a statue at the outside of the state office building. This was Senate File 4662, Senator Hoffman's bill. You'll see the 800 in bracket there so that it is not picked up in the formulas. That's the piece that is being allocated from the current authorized appropriation. On line 25 is Senator Gustafson's Senate File 4745 for a payroll reporting database. That is $1.958 million with a $1.4 million tail. On line 26 is Senator Xiong's Senate File 4059, which is a one-time appropriation for public television grants of $1.9 million. On line 30, you will see that there is a $1 million cancellation of an unused appropriation to MMB that was used to help stand up the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and this is made effective immediately to recognize those savings. On lines 38 and 40 are the incidental revenue pieces related to the article, the barber and cosmetologist articles, agency bills that are in the bill. And with that, I would point you to line 48 where you can see the total expenditure changes in the bill. It's a change of $4.1 million in the current budget biennium and a $5.2 million change in the tails.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Chairman, it's a fairly easy budget, but the line items he was talking about did not correspond to what we have in front of us.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Nauman.
Mr. Chair and Senator Pappas, admittedly, there's a little bit of confusion going on here this morning as we get our sea legs for the first bill in front of us. Fiscal staff have been instructed to bring two spreadsheets to you, one as the bill was brought into committee, and Senator Xiong immediately went to the A17 amendment. There is a second spreadsheet that he was working off of.
All right, thank you.
So in the future, we're going to have two spreadsheets, that one as the bill comes in, and if the chair chooses to work off of that, we will do that. If the chair chooses to skip immediately to a conforming amendment, then we will work off of that spreadsheet, and that's what Mr. Erickson has chosen to do.
Thank you.
And so the second spreadsheet will be needed when we come up to the safety and security thing. So, Ms. James, you want to go through the...
Mr. Chair and members, Article 13 of the bill has the appropriations that Mr. Erickson just outlined. Article 14 of the bill is the changes to the Board of Barber Examiners. This includes the provisions with financial impact as Mr. Erickson described, as well as other provisions relating to licensing and fee structures for the Board of Barbers. Article 15 is the Board of Cosmetologists bill. This includes the provisions that have the financial impacts that Mr. Erickson described. And if the committee would like a section-by-section description of those articles, 14 and 15, the barbers and the cosmetologists, I'll do that. But I think the financial portions have been described by Mr. Erickson. And then Article 16 is a provision that requires the Commissioner of Administration to develop a payroll reporting portal and database capable of accepting and retaining certified payrolls, and it has to be accomplished by a specified date. It also requires the Commissioner of Administration to make available to the public certain information about people working for contractors under a contract with the state, and for the database to be searchable on specific fields. This information is required to include information that's required under prevailing wage statutes. It also requires that projects covered by the state prevailing wage requirements be registered in the portal by the project owner and assigned an identifying project number prior to the start of work. And it requires all contractors that are covered by the state prevailing wage requirements to report certified payroll information to the Commissioner of Administration. This section also specifies that making submissions of certified payroll under this section fulfills a reporting requirement under the prevailing wage statute, and it allows local units of government and project owners to opt in to participation in the portal and the database. And that is the bill.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a question for Senator Xiong or one of the other two of you. The public broadcasting is, how many stations are getting, and they're all greater Minnesota. Can you speak real briefly to the issue on that?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there are, I believe there are 4 stations in rural Minnesota that will be impacted. And then, I don't know if you wanted a list of the different stations involved. So there's Pioneer PBS, Lakeland PBS, KSMQ, PBS North, and then Prairie Public Television. So 5 of them.
Okay, and that's because, again, as you mentioned, that they're all on the verge of closing because of the loss of federal funding.
Yes, Chair. They're looking to seek to get some funding so that it can serve as a bridge to a new structure that will enable them to continue on. If they lose this funding, if they don't get the funding, I don't think they will be able to come back or remain. And so it's critical.
Thank you. And do you know, offhand, I know where some of those are, one's in Bemidji, one's in, where are the others?
Yes, I don't know if you want they're here to testify. I mean, if you want them
No,
to
I
testify.
just wondered, Bemidji was
Yeah,
one.
so Lakeland, Bemidji, up in Duluth, and so.
Okay, I think I heard one, Austin was one, I think, but Senator Champion, on the bill, you had some comments or questions or concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions for Chair Xiong. You indicated that, I just want to be clear, Article 16, it relates to the payroll reporting portal and database that members from the National Association of Minority Contractors just expressed some concern about. So I have a couple of questions. One is this provision in your policy bill?
Mr. Chair, Senator Champion, no, it's not. It's in this portion of the bill.
It's only here?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Senator.
I see that there's a letter from the AGC, which is Associated General Contractors. And what they expressed is that they support the goal of the Unified Certified Payroll System and prevailing wage construction projects that strengthens compliance, protects wages, and streamlines reporting. However, this is from the Associated General Contractors. They said, we are actively working with stakeholders to address several outstanding implementation and policy issues to ensure that the system is workable for contractors and successful for the state. Are you aware that there are concerns about Article 16?
I've been made aware of the concerns.
And Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, continue.
And Senator Xiong, is it your intentions, I know we talked earlier about us having an opportunity to meet along with the National Association of Minority Contractors, to talk about their concerns and how they believe that this bill creates a real problem for them around data practices, tolling, and there's just a cross-section of things. And so is it your intention for us to be able to meet so that we can see if we can address this before it comes to the floor?
Mr. Chair, Senator Champion, thank you for that, and I was made aware of it just today, but you have my commitment to work on this. I don't think we want to get something through that's gonna leave some concerns for folks, and so I look forward to working with your office on it, and you have my commitment to working on this.
Thank you, Senator Xiong, for your willingness to work on this, because they have talked about how important this is, and I did receive some emails last week, and I did apologize to them that they did send something, and it got lost. And so I just wanted to make sure that we are doing everything we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Howe, then Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess that's the article that I'm concerned about too, is Article 16. And Senator Xiong, could you tell me why this has got to be public data? Because there's some of us that work in the construction field, and some of us have our office as our home. It's our home address. And so I'm a little concerned to having this public, or why it can't be held within the Department of Labor and Industry, and why it has to be out there for everyone. Because in the current environment we're in, I'm a little bit concerned about throwing that data out there for anyone to see. Can you express why that has to be public data and not held private?
Senator Xiong.
Thank you, Chair and Senator Howe. I believe that it's there's the desire to create a central location for, ease of accessibility and efficiency, and, gathering that information for compliance. It's required reporting already. And so I think we've put in an amendment in here to address some of the concerns about data privacy and best practices. And so I think it came down to, efficiency and having it in a central location.
Senator Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Xiong, I appreciate that, but for those of us that, I've got I live a little bit rural, and I've got a little 911 sign, a little blue sign that tells fire departments and public safety folks where my house is. And right now it's got a big hole in it from a shotgun slug. So I'm a little concerned about, I can't control everywhere where my home address is, but I'm a little concerned that we're gonna be more places where my address is thrown out there for public to research and to find me. So, and I'm sure there's other folks that are in the public eye that have concerns about having their home address splashed in multiple places all over the place. So I strongly urge us to make some adjustments to that, because I think streamlining it and having it go, I appreciate that, but Department of Labor and Industry should, and local units of government, I don't have a problem with them having that data, but having it out there, I don't know why the public needs to have access to that information. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I wonder if Senate Council knows, but I thought that prevailing wage data was, the reports on prevailing wage laws were already public data. Is that Ms. James? Or?
Madam Chair and members, that's my understanding.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Howe, go ahead.
Thank you, but I don't know if we're making changes to that, why do we don't make that change so it's not just all public data? The world has changed since June 14th of 2025. That's what I'm bringing up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Pappas, and then Senator Drahan next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a different subject, Senator Drahan, are you speaking on the same subject? Oh, why don't I yield to him then?
Okay, there we go. Let's continue on this one. So Senator Draheim, then Senator Pratt, then back to Senator Pappas.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Chair. My question has to do, did this go to judiciary, this section 16?
Mr. Chair, Senator Draheim, no, it didn't. It didn't touch the sections under data practices, I don't believe.
So in other words, Senator Howard's mentioning he thinks that law should be looked at, but this isn't changing anything in the data classification of it.
But I think it changes who has access to it, Chair, and that would be my concern, because this will be a public-facing site now. It isn't just, you know, we collected the data before, and I think people could ask for the data, but my understanding now is that anybody could access it, even if they're not in this wheelhouse.
Senator Xiong.
So it doesn't, so from what I understand, it doesn't change who has access to the data. It only changes how the information is being accessed. And so it didn't touch the data practices section of the statute, and so that's why it didn't need to go there.
Follow-up, Chair?
Continue.
Thank you. And then my other thought, and I've just seen this for the first time now, but it says July 1st of 2027. So that, my understanding, that's when it would be up and running. And then how long would the contractors have to get their system to kind of mesh with the requirements and the reporting, and train their staff to do it?
Mr. Chair, I think it would be within the same time frame.
So you're going to set up a, Chair, if I could, thank
Continue.
you. We're going to set up a new portal for people to access, and we're going to make it live at the same time we're supposed to train people to use it. And then in Minnesota, our Chair, our main contracting is in the summer. So to have this go right in the dead smack middle of the prime contracting time seems unusual to me. You know, maybe pushing it till January. I can do the math. I don't think I have the votes here to change it. But my recommendation is, as you're working on this, and I don't think this is your underlying bill, so I know you're kind of stuck with it, but you know, it doesn't make sense for one to do it in January or July, excuse me. And then to have the contractors have to start immediately with a new system. I would recommend, if you're going to do it, and I hope you don't do it, push it to January.
Okay, we can take a look at that because I think Senator Xiong says he's happy to continue looking at the issue. So the effective date, I hear you on. So, Senator Pratt.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And while I appreciate that Senator Xiong wants to streamline the process, he really didn't answer Senator Howe's question, and that was around the access of data and the ability for somebody to look it up. Right now, this data is submitted and it can be requested, and it's, you know, it's a fairly it's not a difficult process, but it is a process that we have to go through, and I suspect that DLI has the opportunity then to look at the legitimacy of the request. But this is going to be a public-facing, searchable database that hasn't gone through judiciary, that hasn't gone through labor, and I'm very concerned that we are making these changes without fully thinking through what those impacts could be. These are not state employees that we're talking about. It's not like a public employee's wage information is readily available. These are private contractors. These are private employees that shouldn't have their information just put out there on a searchable database for me or Senator Champion or you know, the guy who shot a hole through Senator Howe's 911 sign. We need to really think seriously about this, Mr. Chair. This is a huge, huge change that has only gone through one committee. without any of the others having take a look at it. I would make a motion to send it to labor. I would make a motion to send it to judiciary. It's going to fail. Because we've decided that this has got to be fast-tracked. We saw what happened in 2023 and 2024 when we passed bills very, very quickly without a lot of stakeholder input, and we had to come back and try to correct them. Now, I appreciate that this is a 2027 implementation date, but it sets a very, very dangerous precedent. Because we're not putting doctor or nurse information out there. We're not putting any other licensed profession out there. Just the trades, just the construction trades. For private employees. Mr. Chair, this is, I don't know what the path for this is right now, but I share Senator Howe's extreme concern. Because we have a number of tradesmen in the Minnesota Senate and the Minnesota House whose information will now be searchable. And I would hope that we could eventually strike Article 16 as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Champion on this.
Briefly, Mr. Chair, again, I thank Senator Xiong for, his willingness to have a conversation with us because, as I mentioned, the National Association of Minority Contractors who are here also expressed some concerns. It's my understanding they didn't have any other vehicle by which to be able to express these concerns, so they called me, and then they showed up here today, which shows how important it is for a contractor to be here on a day where they could be someplace else. The concern that was expressed to me by Kim McCraley, as well as Clifton Boyd and Carla Lachmanson, and also Mr. Smith, one is that it's a searchable database, right, and it's forward-facing. They also talked about, and I'm certain that I won't get everything right, but they'll look at me and then they'll, ostracize me later, right? One, they also talked about the concern that anyone would have access to this database. So if it's someone with bad intentions or creditors or hackers, whatever, we are living in a day and time where we have to find some unique way by which to balance the need to know, but also protecting those as has been discussed. Again, before when the departments or the agencies were receiving this information and it wasn't forward-facing, someone would have to do an information request, and there's things that they would have to go through. So at least there was some leaps and bounds that they would have to jump through for a specific reason. So again, I just wanted to put that on the record for them because they did not have an opportunity to talk about those things, and I'm certain that there's other things, but I'll continue to talk to you because I want to make certain that that Article 16, if it cannot be addressed, that we have to do something about it because we don't want to leave business holders and construction workers and construction companies, and we're not talking about big construction companies. Even though I read from the Associated General Contractors, who is an association for bigger and larger entities, but these are small organizations that are really important, right? Some will call them mom and pop, but they are much more than that because I don't want to undermine their value. But these are individuals who are making sure that they are providing a service and business and jobs. I just want to make sure that that's clear. So thank you very much for your willingness to talk about it, but I wanted to make sure I did articulate some of the things that they discussed with us as pertains to exposure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Senator Friends.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Xiong. Just want to add my voice to those who have heard from constituents with questions about this provision. And what I've told them is Senator Xiong is a man of his word. If he says he's going to talk about it, he's going to talk about it. A motion to send it to judiciary, in my opinion, is not my preference over the request of the chief author. But I want to make sure I don't get out of this hearing without emphasizing real concerns that I'm hearing from constituents. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the hard work on this, Senator Xiong.
And for members' sake, this bill will be in the committee for the next week because we're putting other provisions on, so there will be more time to discuss further as well. Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to Senator Francis' concerns, judiciary is the place where this should be spoken about. This is where they have the jurisdiction over data privacy, and not to send the bill to judiciary and keep it here just for expediency is not the way that we should be doing business in the Minnesota Senate. That's my opinion.
Senator Pappas.
Mr. Chairman and members, just to comment on this judiciary since I served there. The staff is very diligent about data privacy issues, and if they felt that this was relevant and there was a significant change in the data privacy law, then they certainly would have been requested. So I just want to refer us back to what Senator Xiong said, is that we're not really, this is current law. And if we wanted to change current law, then there should be a separate bill introduced to do that. Moving on, I just want to refer members to the A17 spreadsheet and line 24 with the $800,000. And I just want to raise my objection. This $800,000 is for remaining dollars in a fund that was to provide trees and benches and the tribal plaza on the Capitol Mall. And we like to call this Melissa Hortman's trees. And so it's kind of ironic for me that we are taking money from Hortman Trees, which would pay for 200 trees on the lower mall, plus some benches, to provide for a Hortman memorial. I think that probably if you were to ask Melissa, she'd prefer the trees, but certainly we, in honoring her, should be able to do both. So I just strongly object to that provision.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the A17 amendment? If not, Senator Friends moves that the A17 amendment be adopted to House File 2433. Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion prevails. I wanted to offer the A21 amendment, which is in the packets, and I want to ask Senator Friends to offer it and Mr. Naumann to explain the amendment.
Mr. Chairman and members, the A21 amendment updates the budget reserve account floor, essentially, that sets the amount that every forecast needs to check to ensure that the budget reserve has reached before any surplus is provided in any forecast. This amount that you see on line 1.13 deletes the 2.8, which was the balance in the budget reserve probably about 3-4 years ago, with the amount that's currently in the budget reserve. For members of the Finance Committee, this is a mechanism for regularly updating the budget reserve for the growth in the general fund, as well as recognition that the budget reserve grows every couple of years once in accord with the spending. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the purpose of the amendment.
Is there any discussion of the A21 amendment? If not, on Senator Friends' motion for A21, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails. With that, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Senate File 2433 be moved, or House File 2433 be referred to the Committee on Judiciary, and I'll address my reasons why in a moment.
Sure. On that motion, go ahead, Senator Pratt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Mr. Chair, we're talking about personnel data, public data, what's going to be searchable, what's not. And while it may be existing law, what we're changing is the access to that data. Data practices and prevailing wage are under, or prevailing wage statutes are under data practices. And so therefore, I believe judiciary does in fact have jurisdiction and should see this. Again, I would suggest that we should not be moving this forward just on expediency, but should really be doing our due diligence and the work that the Minnesota Senate and we have all committed to do.
Senator Pratt has moved that House File 2433 be...
Mr. Chair, roll call, please.
And ask for roll call, be House File 2433 be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. And I'll speak against this because I believe that, first of all, that Senator Latz and the Judiciary Committee, if they, we have the bill in front of us for the remainder of this week and so on, but I think that we will reach out to the Judiciary Committee and ask them to take a look at this. And if they want to see it, Bill, we can send it there. Senator Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would speak against the Pratt motion because I believe that there's some work that we should do before such a motion comes before us. I want to give Senator Xiong an opportunity to meet with the others who are concerned about this provision and see if there's an opportunity to figure out if there's something that can work or not. If there's nothing that can work, then I would see that we should take other drastic measures at another time, but to give the author of this bill an opportunity to make good on his commitment. And as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, that this bill and provision is going to be here for a little while, so we would have some time by which to get it done.
Senator Champion, you're right. Yes, it'll be here this week and a little bit more. To clarify the motion, Senator Pratt moves that House File 2433 be referred to the Judiciary Committee for a look at that, and he had asked for roll call. Is there any further discussion? Go ahead, Senator.
Senate Counsel has asked me to clarify that it's a referral without recommendation.
You referral without recommendation.
And again, Mr. Chair, I would say that, this is going to the very heart of statute 16.43 personal data, which does include prevailing wage purposes. The bill will be here. We will be taking up bills. This won't slow down the process. We can lay the other bills on the table and amend them in when this bill comes back from finance, from judiciary, and we can do those amendments then. The fact that we're trying to rush this through without, I think, doing our due diligence, and I would even argue that this should be going to the Labor Committee, where the very folks that Senator Champion talked about should have a chance to weigh in. And I would hope that Judiciary would even consider, and the Labor Committee would be asking to see this as well. But this is a good start from a data practices standpoint, and I encourage members to adopt, to vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, to clarify the motion again, this is Senator Pratt has moved that the bill be sent to Senate House File 2433 as amended, be sent to Judiciary Committee without recommendation, and I will suggest we will be in touch with Judiciary Committee and have a chance to get to this again in the next day or two if they want to see the bill, if they feel this is appropriate. With that, staff will take the roll.
Senator Marty?
No.
Senator Friends?
No.
Senator Pratt?
Yes.
Senator Champion?
No.
Senator Draheim?
Yes.
Senator Howe?
Aye.
Senator Jasinski?
Aye.
Senator Johnson?
Yes.
Senator Mohammed?
No.
Senator Murphy?
No.
Senator Pappas?
No.
Senator Wickland?
There being 5 ayes and 7 nays, the bill is not referred to Judiciary at this time. With that, I think we are ready to lay this bill over for now. And we have the other bills, but I kind of think 10:30, we better recess until the call of the chair, which will be, I hope, shortly after session recesses or adjourns this afternoon, and we will be meeting, we'll be picking up the pieces in room G15 at the Capitol. So if you have things you want to, ideally put them in your packet, and we will get them all transported there. And with that, we're going to lay over House File 2433. With that, this meeting is in recess until the call of the chair.